Hero is having trouble. Okay, I will call this meeting to order. I'm Kathleen Alder. I am mayor. This is the city council meeting of Wednesday, January 19th. We have members of the council. We have 100% attendance. That's great. We have Josh Paulson, Carrie Kirk, Janelle Seeley, Brent Smith. I'm new council member, Jeff. Never good. So with that, let's have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will lead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, we have 2 sets of minutes to approve. Let's start with the December. Oh, excuse me. Is there anyone that would like to say an opening prayer? Gina?
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this day. We're grateful to be able to gather here today as a council to work on the affairs of the city and to discuss the needs of our residents. We're grateful for the opportunity to serve, and we're grateful for the freedoms that we enjoy in the country that we live in. We're grateful for the moisture that we're receiving, and pray that we can continue to receive more snow and precipitation to improve our snowpack. We're grateful for those who are willing to give up their time and energy for the benefit of others, and pray for thy spirit to be with us this night. And we say these things in Jesus Christ.
Amen. Thank you. We have these minutes to approve. We'll start with the December 15th minutes. I was not in attendance. I was not running the meeting that week, so
Let's make a motion and then discuss, please. I will make a motion that we approve the minutes of December 15th, 2021 and January 5th, 2022.
okay. We have a motion by Janelle Seeley, a second by Brent Smith. Comments?
On the minutes for December 15th on line 308, I think it should read handicapped rather than handy.
Okay. As I reviewed the minutes on the January 5th, and I didn't print those out, so I do have them up. Everybody have your
Which minutes you want?
on January 5th. Thank you.
This one's not on.
Gosh, 2 fingers on move this, right?
Yes, I just am different than most people. I like to move in the opposite direction that you probably.
Okay.
You knew I was different, and now that confirms it.
I'm so glad you confirmed that. I've had trouble printing stuff out, so I can mark them up. Brian, what do we do in this case? Because there's one tiny little wording change. This doesn't change the intent. It's just,
You're welcome. You're welcome to make a motion to amend the to amend the minutes to reflect that change, if that's what you're looking for, or if it's a correction, let's make it. Where's it at?
I have a thought on that. As Dawson said before, I just want to make sure I understand correctly. The official record of the meeting is the recording. Is that correct? I try to remind myself of that so I don't get too hung up on the small stuff.
Yeah.
I can see what it,
The minutes are an official record of the meeting. The minutes are an official record. I mean,
there is one word where it's on line 34 and it's to present, and it's the people of Providence to represent. It was just, like I said, it's just a minor word change. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah.
Okay. So any other thoughts on it? No more discussion?
That's what I was going to do. Thank you.
You got that one as well?
Switch present to represent to.
Awesome, great. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
I
Motion carries, thank you. Yep, any opposed? I didn't hear any opposed. Okay. So at this point in time, we have an opportunity for citizens to express their views to the city council on issues within the city's jurisdiction. City council accepts comments by mail and by text or in person. So do we have anyone here that would like to speak? Okay.
Everybody speak into the microphone.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay,
Everybody else, microphone is over them.
okay.
if you're speaking to the microphone up here,
Pardon?
So do you have any other comments? Okay.
I thought that was funny.
I was trying to help you to speak into this microphone up here. I was trying to be
Get you
helpful.
to speak.
Fair enough.
Okay, so state your name, please.
Jan Arnell from Providence.
Jan Arnell.
Yes.
Okay.
You reminded me of something. I listened to the December 15th council meeting today. When I had my earbud in, I could hear everyone, but when it was just the video and it's coming over the speakers of my computer, whenever you weren't speaking like this, I always could hear this mic, but I rarely could hear anybody on the council unless you were speaking in the mic. So it really is important when we can't attend and we want to know what's going on. I can't read it all because I have to listen. I have to do other things, but it really is helpful if you use that mic.
And we appreciate the fact that you listen. And so we want you to be able to hear.
Yes.
So
that's nice.
reminder to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. John Drew. Kind of a different side to be on, right?
I've been on this side before, so, in the old building. Just want to pass on some information. This is not on the agenda. I gotta have my, okay.
Yeah.
I'll do that. Had a conversation with a fellow who's assistant superintendent of schools, Cache County School District. His name is Tim Smith. I was in a meeting last week and somebody brought up, and they were appalled because there's going to be a new bond issue expected. And I think you probably remember, when was it, 2013, we had a bond issue and all that big hub of $150 million. And so the cringe-worthy discussion was about tax increase. So I talked to Tim today and we talked about specific schools, and some of them are full and all that. And I know that the district has 5 acres in Nibley. The middle school is at capacity here. They're talking about making that an elementary school, build a middle school in Nibley. They're busing students from the other side of Logan to the middle school here, depending on where the growth happens, is the schools that are impacted. But he said they've recently paid off a 2006 bond issue. So he says they think they will be able to not have a tax increase. So when you hear bond issue and people say tax increase, is a logical conclusion that they think they can they can accomplish that without a tax increase. So that's where they're at. They're putting a committee together. We'll probably hear more of it in the paper. So the next few weeks.
Great. Thanks for the
You
update.
bet.
Thank you. Have anyone else? Okay, we'll close that portion of the meeting and we will go to agreements, contracts, and bid awards. This is the cemetery bid award. Who's going to speak to that?
I will speak to
Okay,
that.
Ryan Snow will speak to that.
All right. We had 4 bidders that submitted bids for this project. It includes the completion of the cemetery. So this would be phase 2 of the expansion. We expanded phase 1 3 years ago, I believe.
Can you zoom in on that a little bit?
Uh-huh. Oh, I'll bring it right to here so that we can see. Is that big enough to see everybody?
You can probably drag it down to the bottom just a little
We
bit.
lost the red.
Well, you don't want to see the red.
We don't want to see the red.
So at this point, we had 4 bidders for this project. And the apparent low bidder is Spinwork Construction. And the staff is recommending to accept the proposal for the bid from Spinwork Construction to do the project and then to award the project. So that's where we're at. So that's where we kind of expected it to be. Some of them were a bit higher. They did range from 347 to 484. And so we expect that the amount that would be completed this year will be within that. That amount that's completed this year will be within budget. And we will have a little bit more to budget into next year's budget to finish the project. But this is within what we expected the budget to be. So
Is this complete cemetery?
yes. It includes a building and plots. So storage of dirt and, well, some of it's dirt. So it will include storage, dry storage, because we won't have as much space to store dirt and dig off. So we'll need to cover it. So topsoil and fill material, and then equipment inside the building. Yep. So it'll include all 3 of those kind of things.
So there's one set of restrooms.
Restrooms already in a different
So it's not
location.
another
So
set
it's
of
not restrooms. This building isn't that. So
How large is this building?
the 30 by 30 by 40, something like that. So
Where are you gonna locate that at? In the northeast corner?
northeast corner. Closest to the road, close to the road. So
And can you remind me how much space or how many plots will be added?
not nearly enough,
Yeah.
but I don't remember off the top of my head that number. 300? Yeah. So
The idea of having infant plots was tossed around in the past. Is that something that's going to be considered?
this is just the completion of the previous designs. So it had been designed with the phase 1. So this is just the completion of that. This doesn't have specifically infant plots. But this is just the completion of what already was laid out and what's in the cemetery. So at some point, there just isn't a lot of space in the cemetery left, that once we use up this, then we would go to a master plan to design either another cemetery or have a plan to have burials in somebody else's cemetery. But it's a pretty limited space, to be honest with you, of what we have left.
Okay. Any other questions? So at this point, we need to just vote it.
We would
Okay.
be looking for a motion to accept the apparent low bid.
Okay, I'll take a motion then.
I'll make a motion that we accept the low bidder on the finishing up of the cemetery out there.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Do we need to?
What's the name
say
of that? Yeah.
That Spindler, we're accepting the bid for Spindler from Spindler Construction.
We can definitely include that. The low bid was inherent in that, but yes, calling it out Spindler. We do want you to know. And so that you know, Spindler is the contractor that is building our water tank right now. So that is the same contractor. So we do have experience with them currently.
So I second Councilman Stokes' motion.
So we have a motion by Councillor Spath and a second by Josh Paulson. All in favor?
Aye.
I
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Our next item is election of a mayor pro tem. So the city council will review, discuss, and may take action on electing a mayor pro tem. Christina Eck was the former mayor pro tem. And what this includes is if the mayor is not available, this person would fill in. And so,
So this is a discussion, right? Josh and Ryan and I talked about this. You know, I feel that someone who would be here the full 4 years and you're here, Mayor, would do an excellent job of filling in those shoes. That's only one person. That's Janelle.
Jeff will be here
Jeff
for
will be.
4 years too.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
In her
What
second term.
scandal do you know
Second
about?
term.
Yeah.
But she has experience.
So I feel favorably in that regard too. So if there's a motion made, I would support
then
that.
I will entertain a motion. Was that a motion?
I'll make it. Yeah.
I will make a motion.
Okay.
Recommend Janelle Seeley as the mayor pro tem.
Okay. So we have a motion on the table by Brent Spath.
And just as a point, that's an election, not a recommendation, but an election, right? You just said recommendation, but with an election of,
So we elect her rather than, we don't vote on the motion, we vote on an election.
You vote to elect, correct?
all right,
Is that what we're doing?
you're voting to elect.
So how do I say it? I propose that Janelle
You need
Seeley,
to be on your mic.
I propose that Janelle Seeley be elected mayor pro tem by the city council.
Sounds good.
Great. I'll elect her too.
You could second.
If
Okay,
she's willing. Are you willing?
I'm happy to run a meeting, but I don't want to have what happened in Hyde Park. I don't want something terrible to happen to Kathleen and become the mayor. That's my only thing I don't want to have happen, but I will be happy to run a meeting if you're out of town or sick.
okay,
So that's my only stipulation.
I guess you
Stay
can-
well and safe. That's all.
okay, I'm planning on that. So thank you for the vote of confidence. Okay, so we have a motion on the table by Brent Spath, a second by Josh Paulson. Any further discussion? All in favor of electing Janelle Seeley as the mayor pro tem? So indicate.
Aye.
I
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Good for you.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations.
Now you can sweat bullets when I show up late.
As long as you're still coming.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the municipal transient room tax. So we have a draft. And does anyone want to present on this? Brian, would you like to talk about it just a little bit?
I'm going to defer to Ty here for just a minute to tell us how we came to this and where it came to.
Ty, we don't hear you speak very often, so.
Yeah, I try to stay in the background. It's easier for everyone. That's something me and Ryan talked about. A lot of cities, you'll see this, have this ordinance in place for those Airbnbs that are becoming very popular. It's just a way for the city to kind of monitor that, to receive some kind of revenue. As it states, this is just a draft, something to talk about. This will go through the state in collecting that. Again, I did a search a couple weeks ago. I actually didn't see any Airbnbs in Providence. The only thing that came up was the Rock House bed and breakfast. But again, this
The
is
Old
just,
Rock Church.
yeah, the Old Rock Church, excuse me. Just to have something in place in the future if it does become, again, quite popular. People who rent out certain parts of their home or spaces to people who come through visiting. We'll have something in place that we can tax them on. Again, this is more of a discussion item between you all if this is something you guys want to pursue. This draft I came up with by looking at other cities. Again, it's pretty prevalent. I got tons of responses when I reached out there. A lot of them have been in place for years now. I had some from the 90s that were in place. So yeah, of course you see this more in bigger cities, but I did get a couple from surrounding areas.
So this is not, let me just clarify. This is not for someone who is renting their basement to someone. This is a short-term week, maybe 2 weeks rental,
30-day or less.
30-day or less. Okay, thanks for the clarification. So what do you think?
I just didn't have any experience with this. Is 1% fairly customary then? How does that?
1% is the state's allowed maximum for cities to charge.
Okay.
So it can be anything less than that, but 1% is the common. I think that as you found most of that, it's the most common, and it is the state's allowed amount. So cities can't charge anything higher than that.
I'd just like to hear more about why a city would do something like this and monitor.
Okay.
I'd like to speak to that. A number of years ago, we had a rental house that came up. The family moved out and still owned the home and allowed groups to come in and stay in the home. And it became quite disruptive to the neighbors. To the neighbors around there, it was very disruptive. And it basically started down the line of a nuisance. And it might be a good way to control who's doing what, so that we have an idea that sometimes homes change hands and then they do it. We just don't have a feel for what's happening with some of these homes. So that's why I feel it would be worthwhile to have some means, and I'm not saying 1% is the means, but I think there ought to be some means of monitoring who's renting their homes out for the case where they become a problem or nuisance to the neighbors.
So in this case, did the neighbors discuss with
They came to the
these
city and
people,
talked to us about it. We had nothing to.
but the citizens didn't talk to the owners of the building?
I don't remember. Do you, Scarlett? She lived in California. Come up, yeah,
So the owner lived in California, is that what you're saying?
yes.
We had several. It was kind of the thing. Before Airbnb, actually, it was kind of just starting. And yes, the neighbors did talk to, in one, it seems like the kids were in charge of the home. I can't remember if there was a death or just exactly what had happened. And they didn't have the same, well, yeah, they weren't as emotionally attached to the area as the people living there. So we did actually put some definitions in. And so we, and I get quite a few calls about this, and
And that's why when I talked to Ryan, he felt like this is something that the state actually I feel like the state encourages Airbnbs and makes it very difficult for cities to enforce some of the ordinances. But we have two different types of bed and breakfast in Providence. We have one that's more like the commercial, like the Old Rock Church. It's a residential structure, or excuse me, it's a building containing a minimum of 6 guest rooms used for accommodations or lodging of guests, paying compensation where at least breakfast meal is served. And then we have another one that's called bed and breakfast residential, a residential structure used to provide rooms for temporary lodging for overnight guests on a paying basis, is occupied by the owner or individual responsible for operating the facility, contains a maximum of 5 guest rooms. So what we felt like, what the council felt like at the time they put those two, rework those definitions, kind of the same way we feel about accessory dwelling units and accessory apartment units. We felt like it's probably something that is wanted, something that can be monitored, but we want the property owner on board in the residence. So it does, so someone, an investor couldn't come in or say, I'm purchasing a home and turn it into an Airbnb and just do it through property management. The way ours is set up, the bed and breakfast residential needs to have the owner or the individual responsible living in the property as well. They don't have to be there when the guests are, and they can go away for the weekend and Airbnb their house out for the weekend while they're gone, but they can't not occupy the home. So that's the way our definitions are. That's not how other communities may have them, but that is how our definitions are. And then when you ask about the length of time, we actually have, sorry, my phone's going a little slowly. We actually do have, it's called rental, residential short term, and it's the rental of a dwelling unit or any portion thereof for less than 28 days. So that's where it all kind of plays in with the bed and breakfast and the short term rentals. So that's the way our code currently has it. In order to do those, sorry, push the wrong back button.
Just while you're looking for that, the 28 days is code in ours. State code has the 30 days or less for the for the transient room tax. That's how they're defining transient in state code. But so we'll have a little discrepancy there that we're at that point when we do our code reviews and things like that, we'll decide, does it make sense to line those up together? So anyway.
And in our use chart, we don't differentiate in the use chart itself between bed and breakfast residential and the bed and breakfast inn. We just call them bed and breakfast, but either direction they go, whether it's going to be a business like the Old Rock Church, or whether it's going to be someone who rents part of their house out for short terms, it's a conditional use. So that's the other way that we can make sure when they come in and talk to us, they can show us a business plan, how they're going to park. They understand they have to be careful with noise and things like that. There's a few things that we want to clean up as far as conditional uses. And we started with our sensitive areas that we did a few months ago. And this may be one that we choose to leave as a conditional use because does seem to be important to the neighbors. We do want to make sure that if somebody's going to do it, it doesn't deteriorate from the neighborhood. But we also recognize that it's something that people seem to really enjoy. So that's kind of the way the thought was when all of this went into play. So does that help answer your questions on the regulations and things? So
he was talking about nuisances, and I was thinking maybe it could be resolved through the nuisance code
we
instead of a tax. But
Yeah, it seems that whole issue seems really tangential to me, like not at
Why
the
tax?
core. I mean, my question would be regarding, I mean, obviously we have sales tax, and people pay sales tax when they rent out their home as well. Most of the time when we have a tax,
The sales tax is you wouldn't rent, if you rented out your home, there's not a sales
there's
tax.
not a sales tax.
That is the transient room
long-term.
tax.
There's
Those
no
are the
sales
same,
tax?
those
I
are
don't
the
see-
same tax. Transient room is a form of a tax on a rental, but you don't have a sales tax on that. So if you rented it out, if you went to an Airbnb and you paid taxes, you're paying the transient room tax and not a sales tax.
And not a sales tax.
Correct. So we do not have a sales tax implemented on a rental like that.
That's interesting. I don't understand tax code that well, but typically services are taxed, but within Utah code, that's carved out, I'm guessing is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
And this is the replacement for that. So my other question would be the tax, typically when there's a tax, not always, but there's a tax because it represents some cost or burden to the city. I'm wondering about the theory on this one, what the cost or the burden is that the city would need to collect money to go ahead and for the service that was being offered. Does that make
So
sense?
let me ask you this question. How many people come in and register their home as a bed and breakfast, and so they come under this code?
We haven't encouraged it at this point because we really haven't had good mechanisms in place. We've had definitions, but not really good mechanisms. But
Nobody's self-reporting at this
Right.
point.
So the
I'm not aware of any
problem is you only find
self-report.
out after
right,
there's been an issue or a problem or a parking
Right.
problem or something like that. You come in and you find out after. Proactive is if you have to deal with some type of, and I'm not saying it has to be 1%, but some type of an upfront dealing so that they know what the city code is, then you've taken a proactive step and you alleviate some of the problems that you're otherwise out enforcing. So
And it would be the cost, to answer your question, cost of enforcement.
mhm.
Okay, so that's what it represents.
So-
Cost enforcement.
so some of it is
That's what I'm
cost
wondering is if we
enforcement.
have a tax, there
Right.
should be a cost. That's what I'm hearing.
And so that we're enforcing compliance with the code, and that
And that tax will help with enforcement.
will help with enforcement, absolutely.
That's helpful.
Scarlett, okay, I live in a home. I decide that I want to do Airbnb it. Talk us through the process.
Well, that's a business. I mean, you might think it's a hobby, but it would be considered a business. You would apply for conditional use. In this case, you could fill out an application for a conditional use and a business license. Just like someone that wants to teach music lessons or somebody that wants to run a daycare or preschool. So it's a process that a lot of people in Providence are already doing. It's not something that's unique or burdensome. We would just ask for their business plan. They would have to explain to us how they're going to, there's some things in our business license code that talk about if you're going to have a home business, how you need to maintain the residential character of the neighborhood and the noise and things like that. But it gives us, as the administrative land use authority, that's who hears conditional uses. Then we also have the opportunity, now we don't have the opportunity to turn it down unless they really truly can't mitigate their problems. But if they're only going to rent like one bedroom and they've got plenty of parking,
Rent one bedroom for less than 30 days.
yes.
Okay.
If they're gonna do
More than 30 days.
Airbnb, well, if they're gonna rent long-term, then that's a different thing, and we don't license property rentals like that. Short-term rentals, though, that's where I want to get them in the business license so that we know what's coming and going. We do have a few that are problems. I get calls from a couple of different neighborhoods every now and again. And unfortunately, sometimes when someone tries to do it in a cul-de-sac, not the best place to try and add extra cars and things like that. So that's why we feel like if we start implementing this tax, the business license, the whole 9 yards, that we can work better with the people in the community. The neighbors also kind of know what's going on, and everybody kind of feels better about life. So that's,
So it makes it easier to regulate.
it does, makes it easier to regulate.
And then the 1% tax, does that, all of that come to the city? Or is that go to
1%.
the states?
Well, the state will take an administrative fee, but basically the 1% comes to the city.
But it does, so when the person that's operating the business pays their sales tax, they pay that to the state of Utah. But they are registered in Providence City, their business would be registered in Providence City, so then we would get our portion of that back rather than, but they don't pay the tax directly to Providence. It goes to the state gives it, takes their fee and gives it back to us for this ours.
Okay.
But anyway, the process, they would have their initial business license fee, they'd have their one-time conditional use fee. Right now, the conditional use is $100 business license. For a home business, is $25. If they were doing a commercial B&B, it would be $50. And then they pay those, and we go through that process. And once we are able to approve their business plan and make sure that their conditions can be met, and they can run it in a manner that meets our code, then they're good to go. And then it would just be a matter of annually renewing their business license and paying their sales tax, depending on how busy they are, whether it would be quarterly, annually, or monthly. But that would be between the sales tax part is between them and the state. We don't have to collect that.
So there's nothing that we have to do on our part.
Only
that's tax.
only after they remit, but then we get a report from everybody that remits taxes. We get a report in a detail,
Okay.
and we can use that. We use sales tax to compare back to business licenses to make sure that if they have a business license but don't pay sales tax, or if they pay sales tax but don't have a business license, there's a check and balance. We just don't have the check and balance on this side, and that's probably why we don't have any that are self-reporting. But
Like I said, we really haven't encouraged it because we haven't felt like we have good mechanisms to really handle it. But with everything that's in place, and now with the transient room tax to help with the cost of administration, it will. I think it's a positive move because I do think there's interest in it. And I do think there are people that are doing it that would rather be able to get a business license and feel like they're doing it above board than kind of doing it and not knowing if they're really above board or not. So I think it will be a good thing for everybody involved.
Scarlett, when they come for a business license, will they have an opportunity to have any public input on that? The neighbors, if there's a problem.
The conditional use is a public
Public
meeting.
hearing, right? It's a public process. So
Yes.
they'll have an opportunity, and neighbors,
Yeah,
if they feel like they do or support it or do not support it, they can make a comment about it.
they could come in and let us know why.
So there's an opportunity for the neighbors to be on board or to voice their opposition to it.
Yeah, we don't, it's not generally a public hearing, but it is a public meeting. It's a noticed, and we do an agenda. We notice, we hold it here. We are on YouTube and have the recording and the minutes. Just, we are a body. And so, and we follow the open meetings rules and process it that way. And it is considered a land use decision. So
Ryan, just one question. So I booked an Airbnb several months ago for St. George next month.
Mhm.
And I have on there an occupancy taxes and fees, which constitutes about 10, and this is exclusive of Airbnb's fees, constitutes about 10% of the total thing. Are there additional fees that the state collects that they don't consider taxes, but transient fees? Because this does not seem and this would be this is in Utah. So I'm curious what.
so some of those fees are collected by for the county. The county would have a tax
Okay.
already on it. So the
Okay.
county's already
So
implemented
the
this.
county does have one.
So the county
Okay.
implements this.
Okay.
The state implements it on their end. So the state gets a chunk, the county gets a chunk. The only one that isn't getting a portion is the regulatory agency, us. And the one that's charged to regulate that they're following the rules. We don't have the 1%. And so you're right that it is.
Well, that's why I was just so blown away by the 1%, because I've been stayed in enough places that you've done Airbnbs, and I swear it's 10 to 14%. So that's why I was really surprised.
Right. Because it's the city's 1%, just like sales tax. The city has only 1% on the sales tax. But when you buy something in Providence, you don't just pay 1%, the sales tax, because the state has their fingers in it, the county has their fingers in it.
Well, this is very educational for me. It's no brainer in my.
Now, just so you know, on process, this is just kind of a first reading. We're bringing it as an idea. And in order to implement an ordinance, it would require a public hearing. And so there's more steps so the public could have an opportunity to voice their issues if they have one on this, if they'd like. So.
Are they considered a business with a business license? Sorry.
They would, if they're renting less than that, the 30 days or less, they would be included. And so their collection would include that 1% when they collected as a tax. As Josh has pointed out, he can see the amount that's for the tax and pays that. And that's usually on top of the rates that are published. So the Old Rock Church wouldn't have to publish new rates. Just when they collect the current tax amount.
The county and state's already taken their portion.
They're already there. That's correct.
So I just did a map search on Airbnb, and there's about 18 Airbnbs listed in Providence.
Mhm.
So just
So that's money walking out the
I'll
door
rent out my
for
tax
us.
for $6.
So the tricky thing about
You
it
have,
is-
you had one search?
Yeah, I looked up there today at 5, but
Yeah, I'm just looking at a
Oh,
map.
no.
That's
Is it gonna
where they are.
So we
she's
can't,
got fiber.
we can't use that information, if we wanted to say that they weren't allowed, we can't use that information to prove that they're running a business. So it's very, very difficult for us to be able to enforce not allowing them. And so it makes, after Ryan and I have talked for about 2 years on it, we've just felt like no point to bang heads on walls. Let's work it out a way that we can have good enforcement, good communication with people, with their neighbors and whatnot, and move forward that direction.
But this seems easy with Airbnb. They're just going to update their tax tables, and then that's going to start collecting the 1% for it. So
That's correct.
it's super easy.
But then we get a list and we can compare that and we can help the compliance of that.
Yeah, great.
So.
And just to be clear, this is not a punitive tax of any kind. This is a tax to help the city and the citizens of Providence to make sure that there aren't problems and that we're identifying and, as you say, communicate with the neighbors that we are collecting on that so that it's paying for itself rather than.
It's helping. It will be helpful, but it's like anything else when we introduce it before we go to public hearings and all types of things. We want to make sure that it's something that you want
To pursue. So a vote tonight would be a vote to pursue.
A vote tonight would be a vote to put it to a public hearing, which doesn't make it law. It only says, yeah, let's
Here's
hear the
what we're
public. But there's no point to have public clamor if it's something that the council is not interested in.
Right.
We're bringing it as a staff and saying, we see a problem. We're presenting that. You'll see that as we review later. That's one of the duties you've asked me and the staff to do, and we're fulfilling our duty. But that doesn't mean politically you don't make a different decision. We're just saying from our end, we're looking for an avenue to help us in that process. And if you don't want to and you continue where you're at, that's totally the choice of the council. So we're just presenting what we would think is something that you should consider, and then where you take it is up to you.
As you've done your homework and said, here's an issue we need to deal with, right?
And this is our proposed way to help deal with it.
Okay,
Mayor, you willing to entertain a motion? Or do you want more discussion?
let me just, Jan has a comment, but we will have a public hearing. So you have a question. Please come to the mic, state your name again.
Jan Arnell from Providence. I think it's with a license to do business that would take care of the enforcement issues that may come with something like this. The thing that I'm concerned about is that we step into that slippery slope of trying to find creative ways to tax the people. And that's a concern of mine, and I wondered how you all felt about that. Are we going to go there where we find creative ways to tax our people?
Okay.
That was some kind of concern of mine, and this seems like one of those issues where if they had a business license, the enforcement issues, costs would come from that. Anyway, that's
Jan, I
my
see
concern.
that point. One thing that's helpful for me to look at when I look at this site is who's the payer of the tax to, and it would be, as I understand it, it would be
Outsiders.
it
Not
would
the
be
citizens.
person coming in, it would be the person visiting or renting and not the business owner. Is that correct?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yes. Okay. I mean, I get that, but I feel a little bit better about
Creative
that.
way of taxing people, whether it's people in our own city or not. It's more infringement, of government on people. That's always a concern.
Thank you.
I would like to make a comment to that. Unfortunately, in our world, if you send out and say, we want you to come in and tell us if you're having a rental, and we'll leave it at your own integrity to do that. There seems to be not 100% compliance, in fact, considerably less than 100% compliance. If a tax is involved, whether it be small, and I'm not even saying 1%, then people's attention turns to the fact, if I'm going to do it, I've got to comply with the law. And while we don't like to tax people for the sake of taxing people, it's a vehicle to bring about compliance. It'd be nice to have everybody with a great integrity that would show up on the 1st of January and say, I have a dog. Here's my money for my dog. You don't have to enforce it, so you don't, my dog tax can be less. That doesn't happen. That's not the real world. We have to go through different steps to bring people's attention to certain things, because it influences the community that we all live in, the relationships within the community, and getting along and being a part of good neighbors to each other. We establish rules as a city so that we can come together and live together. And some of that is, whether you call it a tax or an assessment or a fee or whatever, it does bring people's attention to that. That's my comment.
But it's also putting government over the people in a way that is punitive. As you're calling it, it's punitive. It's actually punitive to those who are being honest, which is really sad. I think up to this point, the people that I know, there's 2 on my street. I don't think they even considered coming to the city. I don't think it was ever brought to their attention to even ask the city if they needed a license, which is odd to me. If you're going to run a business out of your home, you have to have a license. And when we did that, we actually had to have a statement by our neighbors that it was okay that we do that. Maybe now it's changed to a hearing, but in order to have, my husband self-employed, and so we had to get permission from our surrounding neighbors to be able to get our business license. I don't know, has that changed now, where you have to have the hearing instead? We just had to have a statement by our neighbors. Anyway, those kinds of things, I think if people were aware that they were supposed to get a business license, then they probably would. But I have a hard time with government trying to wiggle their way into private citizens' lives by taxing them. I think it's a dangerous thing to get into.
So I spend my holidays in developing countries where there's not roads or water or infrastructure. And I also I'm conservative and don't like government overreach, but something has to pay for these beautiful roads that we drive on in Providence, and something has to pay for people to enforce codes. And if we don't have taxes, then we don't have any of those things.
I'm not anti-tax. I lived in.
Okay, that's how I was
underdeveloped
interpreting.
countries for 5
because
years, and I
if-
know what it's like. I mean, I wasn't allowed to attend public schools in those countries. because my
Right.
parents didn't pay tax. I understand that there is a cost. for
That's
living where
all.
we live.
And we're just trying, you
It
know,
just seems like a creative way to add more tax, and that's what my concern is. Not, I am not anti-tax. We
Okay.
do have to pay for where we live and are grateful for it.
thank you.
So,
Well, what we're talking about here is having the people who use the service pay for it.
Yeah, the
That's
people
it.
who are using the roads and the water and the sewer, I mean, and the enforcement. But I think that we understand that we don't want to overreach either.
And we're not looking for ways to tax people.
thank you.
We are just looking for
Thank
ways
you.
to have the people who use those services pay for them.
And I think if it's proposed that way to the citizens as this will probably move forward so that we have a public hearing. If it's put that way, I think it will be much more palatable to the citizens of Providence. And the way it's proposed now, it's like, oh my gosh, another tax, so I think we have to be very, very careful.
Appreciate the feedback. So when we market this,
Yes.
we better do a good job of marketing, right?
Exactly.
And, when you say those people who are Airbnb-ing their homes now wouldn't even think to come to the city, we haven't had anything in place.
Right.
And so now we're talking about putting that in place, and we will we'll get our marketing campaign going and make sure that people understand. Because that's only fair to you as a citizen, that other people that come in and use those services are paying for them. So appreciate the heads up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, further discussion?
Just had a comment on the actual draft. We have the year 2021.
What, it's 22?
I made it in 2021.
Okay, so I will, yes. I will entertain then a motion to continue with the process. If there are no further comments.
I just wanted to say I'm coming from the same perspective as
Jan?
Jan, thank you. I just have a hard time understanding the role of local government. Maybe I'll learn through the years, but maybe not. I understand everything everyone said, but I still question the why. Why are we monitoring? So just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, if we have a vote to continue with this process, then hopefully we can answer those kind of questions for you. But services are not free. And
they're paid for through taxes, property taxes. People who actually own the home and pay property taxes on them.
right,
So this is just another one on top of that property tax.
so as we continue the process and you look into it, you can come back to us with information also. So do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Brent,
I will make a motion that we continue to pursue the municipal transient room tax for Providence City.
okay, we have a motion by Brent Steth. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Josh Polson. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I
Nay,
Any opposed?
opposed, nay.
So Jeff, you are voting nay, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion still carries, but we'll note your nay vote. Okay, Thank you. So we come to item number 5, City Council goals. Providence City Council will discuss and establish their individual and collective goals for the year. You have, we sent out the goals that you had for 2021. So as we discuss these goals, we also sent out a list of possible goals for you, as Ryan and I discussed what was possible for you for your assignments. So we'll just go down the row. Josh, we'll
So
start
just
with you.
clarification, what you'd said, I want to make sure I received the documents. What I received was a document that was some of the mayor's goals for the year and previous council assignments.
And previous goals you had set.
That's
Those
stated.
are the
Different
3 things.
sheet?
Yes.
Okay, I was looking at, okay.
Yes.
So I have not reviewed that second sheet here, so maybe
Okay,
start
so
at
you
the
want a
other
minute?
end. Yeah. It was one
It got
workbook,
sent
but
out
had-
this morning.
It was one workbook, but it had 2 sheets. The second.
It did have 2 sheets.
And that just only went out this morning, so
Yeah.
that was
almost
my fault.
around noon by the time I got
Got to
all
it.
of everything. So yes.
Yeah.
Could you email that to my first time, just to, Steve side? Because I can't get the state site.
I thought I'd send it to your personal one.
Well, let me look. I didn't look at
But-
yours.
Okay, there's
And I don't
also,
mind going first. I'm prepared.
okay. There's also the possibility that we can do it next month. If you feel like you're not prepared.
Well, it's pretty easy to catch up. I only have 3 goals listed here, so I can read that fast. So about them. I actually still like all 3 of those goals. 2 of them, I think, as the council, we kind of fizzled. So the 3 that, to answer your question, Mayor, the 3 that I was passionate about and still am is a multi-city aquatic center, which we tested the palatability of that idea with a few other cities, and that wasn't moving along, but I still like the concept of that 10 years from now in the city. I still feel like we need a downtown plan and vision for the historical city center. Like I feel like that's that's something I feel passionate about. And then perhaps with your help, the other one was, business incentives. So I still feel passionate about those goals, but I don't think we've made progress or sufficient progress on those 3. So
Is your progress not there because you need to visit like with me about it?
well, I think we definitely, I think that would be very helpful as we talk about business incentives. I think I get really excited that you're here and you can start making those connections and help doing that. Ryan, I guess I'd ask the question regarding, downtown historic center coming up with a, kind of a community plan and development plan for that. That would be something that the city would need to take on to initiate. And honestly, the aquatic center, I think, is a bit of a pipe dream, but I like pipe dreams. So I'm hopeful
Well,
that.
aquatic centers can also be private.
Sure. We have
As
not
opposed
explored
to-
a private option. We have not explored a private option.
And if you talk about
Yeah.
a city option, most cities will tell you that it's kind of a cash sucking kind of a,
No, that's what we've heard.
that it doesn't generate revenue for the city. It really costs the city and the taxpayers.
Cost them money and provides services for
Right.
that.
But it could certainly be something private that could be pursued.
Yeah, so I feel, I guess to answer your question, though, I still feel like those are important. Brian, can you talk to the,
Let me talk to each one,
Yeah.
and you're right. I would say that the downtown plan, we have had a concentrated effort on getting some of our other master plans up to date. We have made great strides in that this year.
Yes.
And I think that goal we found in this process, and I think you would attest, that we found having two master plans running simultaneously the same through the process was a lot, and probably tried to chew off a little bit more. So we have one going at a time, which I think is much more manageable, both for the staff and council that came. Because when we had two of them, it was a lot, and it took up a lot of our meeting. But we have completed the sewer plan. You know, we have a stormwater plan. We need some updates, but we have some of that in place. A cemetery plan probably is less on our critical because we're finishing the build out. And so it has opened up that once we finish our water plan, then some of these others we could get to in the next term, in the next 2-year term, that I hope you're talking about. And I think that it's possible to get some of that worked out in that period of time. But in the period of time we had, we really needed to finish off some of these others, and we just had bitten off more than I think we realized that we could accomplish in one at a
Ryan, I
time.
want you to know, I understand that. I'm so pleased with what we've done this year. It wasn't meant as a criticism.
No, I just
we
informing.
certainly need a master plan. We certainly need a sewer plan, we need a water plan before we talk about the niceties, right? I mean, I think we take care of the foundations first, so I get that. But I do believe, yeah, if you feel like we can
But I think
get
it
this
could
in the
stay.
queue, if we get this in the queue for the next 12 months to start it, I think that would be fantastic. Yeah.
So anyway, I agree with you that it's something that can come. There is probably resources we move along, but that's within the realm of possibility in this 2-year term. And so yeah, I agree that the aquatic center is a pipe dream, but I have reached out. Millville, they got to get their
They have their
sewer,
own aquatic center they're working on right now.
and they're just not. We reached out. Nibley's, they're not.
I reached out to high school. Yeah, I mean, I think we reached out, but
So-
this was not going anywhere.
Anyway, I think both sides, we both reached out, and it's not ready for a short-term kind of a goal like this. So EDC Utah, we did meet with them. We did have some abilities to attract. I would say on this one, keep in mind that some of those incentives to attract businesses are on the chopping block of the legislature this year. If that's something of interest to Councilman Polson, it might be one that you watch. Maybe that's an assignment or a volunteer of watching that kind of legislature, the legislation of the legislature. That is what's going to happen to those incentives as we're watching. So
the one, since my aquatic center will have to be tabled.
Your aquatic center.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, once I'm actually able to name it or something. Years away.
Your donation will
Yeah,
assure that.
yeah, if I had the money, I would do it. But one thing I think would be nice, would be a benefit. I talked with Forest Service a little bit last year. I'm interested in getting an access way that's open year round from the top of Deer Fence, where the Highlands Phase 2 is, down to Providence Canyon. They currently close that off, and there's no access way during the wintering months.
What, you don't go through the hole in the fence?
So people cut the fence, and they may or may not tear their clothes on that, and they try to go through. So, but there seem to be interest that I would like to pursue an access way there, and they seem to be open to that. Like, it's a no-brainer. Just people want to access the canyon and not go in the off-limits area. So that's one that I would like to see happen. I think is kind of key to our recreation plan too.
Well, the trails.
The trails plan, yeah.
So you're adding that as another goal?
Yeah, I think it might replace the aquatic center with that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't want to help with getting maybe your private one going?
If there are leads for that, I think very interesting. Very interesting.
I bet she has
to do
leads.
that. Do you have leads to get a private one going?
I know nothing.
She has leads.
Well, I mean, I'm familiar with I know that they're looking at building another. The people who own what's the one on the north? Sports guy. I mean, I'm familiar with that one. Yeah. But is that what you're referring to? Maybe.
Perhaps.
Okay, that I'm familiar with. Yeah.
the historic, the downtown plan for the historic, that there's also, it could be options for a city center that is not downtown. So those are some things that if you wanted to make a goal to assist with that kind of thing, I think that would be great as well. You have great marketing skills.
Sure, Mayor. Yeah, happy to.
So can we
Yeah,
pencil that
put
in?
down. Yeah,
Awesome.
I want to be mindful of time here. Then just one councilman, you've got to drill through
Yes.
four more
Okay.
here. So
Okay.
You're done?
Yeah.
You want me next?
Yes, please.
Okay, so just to report on my goals from last year, identifying and acquiring park property has gone very well, thanks to Ryan. And really the park master plan and identifying places and people, and thank you. And then assisting Spring Creek Water Company in preparing an RFP for an engineering study. And I think that's kind of in the water company's hands now. And so I feel like we're friends with them. And my goals with the water company have been reached. And if they want the assistance of the city, I think they know that we're willing.
They feel that support.
I believe so. Beginning fiber build out. And for me, a big part of that was communicating with residents the best that I knew how. And I think that is happening. And the communication part is what I'm thinking for my goal for this year. And then recruiting more youth council volunteers and event volunteers in general. And that has been great this year. So I get a new list. I guess actually I want to report on my assignments as well. They have been the youth council, which I would love to continue to work with the youth council and the new advisors and passing what's begun on to additional volunteers. And then another assignment was the Trails Park and Rec Master Plan. And so glad that has been completed for now. And then fiber development, and that also is well on its way. I would be interested as far as other assignments in continuing to create a sense of community. I enjoy working on the city events, the tree lighting, the Easter egg hunt. I've helped with the concerts in the park and the movie in the park, and I think those city events are good for creating rapport. And I believe as a city council, we are ambassadors and need to create opportunities to connect with people. And so those are the things that I'm most interested in doing. My goal, I sent in an email, and it's not completely, I've done some research on it, and I've talked to some people, and I went to classes at the Leagues in Town conventions on this. But what I would really like to tackle is doing a better job at communicating with citizens in a way that tells our story. I don't want to feed propaganda or try to sell them, but I think that they need to understand why we're moving in the direction that we are. And I think there's good ways to do that. And I would love to serve on a subcommittee to help create a cultural shift that the city council is not the bad guys. I mean, we ran for city council because we wanted to be the good guys. And so I just think it's in the way that we tell our story that people need to know that we're representing them, that we're doing our homework, and that they may not see the whole picture. something that I personally am committed to doing this year is engaging on, in the past, I've avoided social media platforms of argument because I didn't want to engage in banter. But I feel like sometimes the banter and the naysaying leads to more naysayers who are spreading complete misinformation. And so I'm going to engage, even though maybe I don't really want to. One thing that could be listed as a separate goal is I believe that we need to find a better system than the pipeline and that might be investing in a new website or ways to communicate with people. I think people don't even know what they're signed up for in the pipeline. And then I want to focus on creating a sense of community. So that's what I've got.
Mayor, just one quick note. Someone texted me, I don't know, a resident, and they just said, the citizens don't know what your dot goals say because they didn't get this ahead of time. So could you please have everyone read out loud what their goals are when discussed?
Okay,
Okay,
Great.
and I read my goals actually,
Pam,
Yeah.
Thanks, Pam.
word for word.
and I think we went over yours as well. They were, do
I probably could have been more clear, but
you want to be more clear right now?
yeah, let me be more clear so they can hear. So the three that were last year were explore. My eyes are doing weird things tonight. Explore incentives to attract businesses possibly focused on high tech. Downtown plan, including vision for the historical city center, and consider an aquatic center with surrounding cities. So I think we discussed those. As we look to next year, I think we're hoping to move forward with that downtown vision for historical city center. We're going to possibly watch what incentives look like for businesses with the state legislature. And then the other one that was suggested was this deer fence access, Providence Canyon access point.
Okay. And Carrie, you read yours.
I read them and reported on each of them
Okay.
and my assignments. I don't, Josh, do you want to report on your assignments or do you want?
Yeah, I mean, I can. My assignments were given, the hard part during this COVID year was so few of these committees met initially. So I'm completely open to new assignments this year. I felt like my assignments were difficult to follow through with, at least the committees that I was put on COVID.
And what were those?
So the assignments that I have right here. And I also would like maybe to have a discussion with these. I think Mayor Drew assigned these to each of us without discussion last time, if I'm remembering that correctly. Like, I don't think we had the discussion about what we were interested in or what we might want to do. So I was assigned to EDC Utah, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Cache Valley Economic Alliance as an ambassador, I guess. Yeah, for those three groups.
EDC, the chamber, and
Cache Valley Economic Alliance. Am I misremembering that though? I don't think we had a discussion about them. I think those were just our assignments. Yeah.
okay. So we can table that part of it and
Yeah,
and
sure.
then have a conversation between all of us, or one at a time, and take on those assignments if they're things that you're interested in. I plan to be active in the chamber. So maybe that's an assignment that you and I can take together.
Boy, and I'm happy to relinquish it too, to tell you the truth. I mean, like, you have a lot more time than I do, you know, for this, which is why you ran for mayor.
You're
So
assuming I have a
acknowledge
lot
that.
more time.
Yeah. Well, you and I have discussed that previously. Yeah.
So, and I think that's only fair. I think people ought to be able to do the things that they're interested in.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna sit in a meeting, it ought to be one that you want to be in, because then it's easier to take care of bringing that back and reporting on what's going
I think
on.
it's a good point.
So
Yep.
let's look at all of those, and we can just do that individually together, or, you know, the one-on-one with each council member. Okay. So, Carrie, your assignments as opposed to?
Yeah, I reported on youth
Okay.
council, fiber trails and rec master plan.
Okay,
And I would like to continue with the youth council and I would like to help with city events.
okay. Great. I would like to add to everyone's assignment and goal is to attend all of the city celebration kinds of things that we have. The movies in the park, the music in the park. This last year, as we've had some events there, not everyone has attended. And I would like to have you add that to your list of assignments, actually. And I know sometimes things come up, but when people come to those things, they look around to see if we're supporting them from an elected official. And so I'd like everyone to put that on their goal list. Okay. Who wants to go next?
Want me to go? Let's go down the line.
Absolutely. You're Mayor Pro Tem now. Add that to your assignment list.
That's my assignment list. My goal that I had last year was to finish the master plans, including sewer and transportation, which we did that. Code cleanup, refine the process. The land use applicants don't have to keep coming back. I mean, we're working on a code revision. But as a follow-up to that, one of the goals I've set for myself this year is to be proactive in looking for things that I think to make code adjustments. So I have blocked out time in my week to read code every week. So I'm going to work on that. And then the library needs to have a decision made, whether that would be continued funding, and we work with them and they're going to continue to fund the library. So those are my 3 goals that I had for last year. And the goals that I have for this year, must admit, need a little more refining and specification. But in general, one of the things that I was really interested in doing is getting a healthy cities classification for Providence. I think that it would be a positive recognition, and we are really pretty much there. There's very little for that to cross that hurdle, I feel like. So I would like to look on
So it's a
that.
fairly simple process and not difficult to reach.
I don't think so. I mean, from what I understand of the process and the application, a lot of the things are already being done in the city, and anything additional to that would be like a citizen committee to just discuss things, which I feel like would be easy to organize in our community. So I want to pursue the Healthy Cities Award for Providence with the League of Cities and Towns, and possibly look at doing a health fair sometime in the spring to kick off our our miles walking that we already do with our recreation program. I have been working with Just Serve account postings, and I would like to add 10 ongoing service project opportunities to that from the city. From the staff, maybe has some ideas, whether that's canyon cleanup or park litter pickup or weeding in the roundabout. I don't know. I would be open to staff brainstorming some ideas on the ways that we could advertise things that the community could help us out with, because I think that if they know there's a need, I think we have a great community that's willing to jump in and help out with things and feel invested, and a lot of youth groups in the community that would be willing to help out as well with that. So,
Well, that helps in our goal. Carrie has stated that as a goal. I have it as mine, and that is to bring the people of the city together to collaborate and work together. So that's one step in the process.
I think there's times service opportunities that are like a one-time thing that needs help with, and things that can be ongoing that people can kind of make their thing, And then I put code review on there again, but I kind of already mentioned it. So those are the goals that I have for this next year. Choice opportunities, code review. Oh, and I did also put on to be to every community event, which you already have that for our list. But I would like to have at least a 2-week notice on the events because there were a few events that I really wasn't aware that they were going on. So I really couldn't make accommodations for them. Like the Jays, well, I felt the planting there was pretty short notice. And I would love to come to that. So that's my only ask on discussion. Maybe try and get a window of notice for that. Do you want my council report as well? Or you want me to talk about my council assignments and the council report later? Or what do you think?
Since the others haven't done that, let's just wait and we'll do that separately. But
My current council assignments in the legislature were public safety. And I also want to keep track of secondary water in the legislature. And I was asked to be an ambassador to planning and zoning, the library board, and the school district. And those, I'm happy to do those. I'm happy to do whatever you want me.
great. Okay. Thank you. Brent, you next in line.
Bring mine up. Funding was one of my dog issues. I wanted to make sure that that happened. And I think we're on track to deal with that. I think we got the funding last fall, and we're on track to, I think we've pretty much got the engineering, the initial engineering done, haven't we, Ryan? He laid it out, he seen how wide we had to go and all that. I don't know is that they've got the actual road engineering and
A lot of the engineering is complete. We haven't finished it, but we're getting ready to bid here soon.
so that's been one of the concerns I had. And with COVID, I'm sorry to say, emergency prepared planning, it's been a very difficult thing to come together in committee to do anything with emergency preparedness. In my personal situation, I haven't dared go and be among very many people for fear of bringing something back to my wife. It's been a very difficult time for me. And rightfully so, it turned out that the worst came to us in December, and hopefully we're going to get over this. But yes, I'm still working with the Lusk and emergency preparedness, and I think you're still getting invitations to those. Have you attended any of their meetings?
I have attended some of them. I haven't received some invitations in the last month or last quarter probably, so I haven't attended there. I have reached out and got contact information for the different stakes, and we just need to find a time when you're well enough and when everything's going well that we can get everybody together, get that circled around. And so that's something we still have. I've reached out. I have the contacts for each of the stakes, and so we're getting a lot closer. We just need to finish that around.
So
So
work best to go through the already organizations that we have existing to reach out. And one of my goals for this year, I'm not sure it's my goal, but I really feel the vote that was taken in November dealing with the citizens' feeling regarding high density housing is a goal that I think that we need as a council to analyze what they were telling us and work with possibly redoing some parts of our zoning to be able to represent what the citizens have said in that vote. That's something I feel very strongly about, and I'm not sure I have the idea, how to go about it, other than I think we need to work with our staff and take a look at our zoning and from what I gathered from those folks in the vote, that we need to do some rethinking of high density housing and rethinking maybe even a little bit into the medium density housing. But that's something we can deal with. But I really think those folks made a statement, and I would want to make sure that we have listened to that statement and do something positive to support that statement that they made. That's one of the things that I have and feel very strongly about. Also, I will attend the celebrations. Again, I have been hesitant to do that just because, yeah, I'm very protective of my spouse.
Your council assignments? Did you include those in your?
My council assignment is I've been to be working with the historical committee, and those I have attended some of their meetings, and the other one is emergency preparedness, and I have an assignment for transportation. We did work out a transportation master plan, which I very much supported and was involved with to a degree. And so that's my assignment.
Okay. Thank you. Jeff?
This is new to me, so these might be kind of general. I don't have anything specific like a swimming pool. Maybe like a mini.
Josh can get together and
Maybe
give us
I
a
was
swimming
thinking more
pool.
like a mini Disneyland. Just,
I love how big you think.
yeah.
Well, but he only wants a mini.
Oh, minis, I'm a mini. No, I wrote down a few things. I guess these are individual goals, right? So individually, I guess I'd like to make sure that any decisions or votes that I make this year will increase confidence, or the confidence that we, the people of Providence, have in this local government, and that the decisions and votes that I make are always promoting and encouraging the greatest amount of individual liberty to the citizens, to show that we have trust in them and the decisions that they make. I don't want to make decisions just to grow local government and be a all watching, monitoring local government. And that's one thought I had as far as individual goals. The second goal, I think it was the December meeting where they pulled up. It seemed like we were really close to not having much debt as a city. And then with fiber and the water tank, we accumulated, I think it's about a 10 million or $9.5 million debt. And so I don't understand all that right now. Maybe I'll learn more about it, but just anything I can do in this position to help have responsible spending as a city and use the money that we do receive wisely, not just, let's do this or do that, but responsible spending as a local government. And a third goal, I'd like to eliminate unnecessary parts of the city code, that possibly don't promote individual liberty for the citizens. Make reductions in the city code that will show that this city government has confidence and trust in the citizens, and that they have the ability to make decisions based on their own common sense and agency. And I guess that ties into, seems like we do a lot of things to be proactive and make sure everyone's safe. We don't want anyone to get hurt anywhere, anytime. So we need to have 1,000 laws and codes to monitor everything that goes on, but personally, I don't believe in that. So just looking through the city code and figuring out what can be eliminated to give more liberty back to the people, which also shows that you're trusting the citizens of this town, and they'll have more respect for us as a city council.
So what I hear you saying is that you want to work on codes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the short.
I think all of us
but,
have that goal.
Yeah, the purpose behind working on city code would be for those purposes of giving more freedom and liberty to the people to make their own decisions and less government monitoring. And then just increase my understanding of what the citizens of Providence would like the role of this local government to be. Do they want us to, do the citizens? I'd like to have a better understanding of what they want us to do. Do they want us to monitor all they do? And that's it.
Okay. Did you check out our suggestions for assignments for you?
I
didn't send out, I didn't
Oh.
send out suggested assignments. We kind of visited about opportunities. I can bring that up and kind of go over it, but I
No,
was
I think-
waiting for this, and then we might sit down
I think the
And-
one-on-one.
and hammer that out. I think if we hammer that out a little bit and then sit down with each of them as we go, then we
Okay.
can kind of do that. But I didn't send that, so I apologize if
Yeah,
I
I do.
misunderstood. But I was gonna go through here. I have some notes and make some modifications, and then what possible
And then we'll visit
changes,
one of them.
and then we can visit the two of us, and then the two of us can visit with each one of them.
We just ran out of time. This meeting was reaching right up and we didn't have enough time to meet with everybody, so I apologize. That was my fault. Jeff, thank you. I have some goals that I wanted to let you know what I have come up with. I didn't have any assignments last year because I was not in this position. So this year, as mayor, my goals are to report on the activity and the outcomes monthly to the council. For the legislative concerns, I'll be working with the legislators and actively attending their meetings. Ryan and I actually had lunch with the Senator Chris Wilson and Representative Casey Snyder. And I volunteered to, if they needed help or feedback or whatever, that they could call on me to help with that. Visited with them again today as we were down with our youth council to the legislature. And I think that will be a good partnership. I'll have outside activities with our community partners, other cities in the valley, other cities in the state, and working with the Providence citizens who may have some concerns and questions. And so I'll be meeting with those people and sharing with you, not necessarily who I met with, but some of the things that came up and what we've been able to take care of. I'd like to establish a precedent to have local Providence businesses post articles in the newsletter and the website. Let's promote the businesses that we have here. We have over 300 business licenses in the city. So what are they all doing, and how can we as citizens support them? And how can we as a city support the things that they're doing? I'd like to reduce the newsletter from 4 pages to 2 and continue the refinement to cover citizens' requests for information. So they'll let us know what they'd like. We did a survey, and that survey indicated that 87% they'd want to get it by email. Was it 87?
I don't know that it was 87. It was very high.
Yeah.
It was overwhelmingly that people like to get information from the city by email.
And they mostly want the stuff from
Public
Our-
Works.
Hmm?
Public Works is our most
Public
popular.
Works. Those,
It was 78% wanted
There you
it by email,
okay.
but 85 say they read the newsletter.
Yeah, my question, did the 70% say they prefer email over print, or they just said they'd like email? in
Most
addition
interested
to-
in email.
Most interested in receiving it.
So that would suggest that they do want, instead of a piece
Well,
of paper.
I don't know if it's an or, I would say that could be an and. It could be email and.
The question
print.
was,
What
if we
the question?
reduce the print newsletter, would you prefer it
Okay.
by, and they
they
87
said email
or
versus-
78 said email.
Yeah, no.
And so we want to encourage the Providence businesses to write articles about their services and products. We'll continue to send things out on social media and text in the pipeline. My goal is to support all city events with a welcome to participants. The Sauerkraut Days, all of you know, we have a committee going on that the Sauerkraut Days are coming back. Complete with sauerkraut.
Which I do have in my office.
Maybe we can make some sauerkraut soup or something. The car show, we'll continue with that. We'll have concerts in the park. Our Easter egg hunt, our very first annual Easter egg hunt was this last year, and it was a raging success. And so we'll continue with that. And then the sports that we have going on. We have opportunities for city officials to throw the first ball out or to welcome people. So
What do you mean by that?
Hmm?
What do you mean by sport? There's like,
yeah, there are a lot of them.
well,
She's gonna be the baseball every night.
Yeah, I can throw it about 20 feet.
all four fields.
Yeah, yeah, that's what we're counting on. We're gonna get her a big shirt that says, "I'm the mayor," something like
And I'm
that.
here to throw this ball out and get the first strikeout. So anyway. One of my goals is to standardize the zone names and look at what we call our zones. And we want to more accurately describe the areas that we have in our zones. I'd like to see us develop a map to show more what the possible build out scenarios would be. So people are not surprised when individuals come and want to build something on there. Well, this is what it was planned to look like. But if we do that ahead of time, then it's easier for the citizens to imagine what's going to be there. I would also, as many of you have stated, like to begin the process to update the codes, taking out redundant and outdated requirements and standardizing the nomenclature. Over the years, we've had changes to our codes, and we just kind of need to clean it up. So we work with those codes every day, and so we need to make sure that it is consistent. Encouraging outside water conservation. The water we all use in our homes, that's not as big a problem as the summertime when people are watering. And there are ways to conserve. We probably overwater all the things. And so putting out information about how to do that. And then I'd like to play an active role in local organizations to support Providence in the communities that interface with the city. So those are my goals for this next year, and I will be reporting monthly on some of these as well. So
That's an impressive list.
I'm already doing those things. I have a big list of,
Awesome.
so I'll report those when we do staff reports. So Questions, comments? We don't have to have a vote on this. This is just a discussion.
The other one that came to mind as we were talking, and I had to look up the recreation master plan just to remember where we had decided, but we talked many times about a dog park, and that is part of a component of the recreation master plan. And I can't help but think it would still be good for us to be eyeing that this year to see if that could get done. We bought 2 pieces of land already. I know that, but
So we're ahead of schedule.
yeah, in that regard. But
That's awesome.
But one of the goals was diversify. It talks about dog parks, but I don't think we've talked about that, but I don't think it's necessarily happened yet, right?
We have not got a dog park.
Yeah.
And we are working down the list of the park recreation master plan. If you'll see
Priorities.
in the priority list, and we're working down that as was defined
Stay with the
priority.
priorities,
So
and I just popped in my head. I don't want to disrupt what we've already decided. So.
I mean, if that's the top one, and I apologize that my sympathies with your loss there, but having had an interaction with your dog at one point, and very nice. So anyway,
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, dogs are on my mind today.
yeah, no, so my condolences there. So, but we are working down that list, and if that's okay, but
Sounds great.
Okay. So if each of you would call me and let's make an appointment or send me an email. Let's make appointments to talk about those goals, and we'll finalize those at our next meeting. So
Did Kathleen get a city email then formally then? Is it mayor? or
yes,
is it- Okay.
it's Kathleen Aller at providence.utah.gov.
I'm trying to get my computer situation handled. That's one of the reasons I was slow getting here tonight. I was trying to get some stuff printed off of my city email and was having a hard time getting it printed.
Is that Kathleen Alder?
No, just
You know,
Kathleen.
it's just one word.
Okay, so let's go with the staff reports. Rob? Public Works.
Overall, the last couple of weeks has been very refreshing. Probably the calmest 2 weeks we've had in a lot of months. It was very busy, frantic summer. It didn't seem to slow down at all. And then we had quite
Even with the snow?
well, the snow events, they were pretty isolated. It was a rough week or two, especially for the guys on call that week or two. But we've had 2 weeks where we've actually been slowed down to a degree that we've been able to try to work on some things that we've backburnered and doing some catch-up things in public works. So it's been a nice couple of weeks since it was a long-awaited refresher to get away from the hustle of the project / snow. So hopefully we do get some more snowpack up there, but not having snow lately has been kind of nice for the guys.
Well, the amount we got today was perfect, right?
Exactly, especially if it hits an ounce, a little heavier, but
You could sweep it off, right?
right. As far as public works in general, our budget's doing well. We're still on track. There's nothing really to alarm any of the departments. The reservoir is still under construction. It's kind of slow, but it is progressing, so it's coming along. When it comes to the cemetery, that's kind of the last thing I wanted to touch on was kind of elaborate, I guess, if you will, on the storage building. I've had a couple people that didn't quite grasp the need for a building when we're going to build it out and complete the whole thing. But a lot of people don't quite grasp, I guess, when they think it through deeper, they understand it, but more than half of our cemetery doesn't have graves filled. And the opening and closing factors of the cemetery will continue for decades and decades. So we're going to lose our raw ground by landscaping and beautifying the remainder of that parcel, but we are still going to need to open and close spaces for a very long time. So storage and a place to put the spoiled dirt. We've kind of been spoiled when it came to the raw ground, being able to put our topsoils and our granular borrow and play it on that raw ground. So that's the answer you can give anybody, that when they see the building getting erected, that it does have a really valid purpose. Any questions?
But we need a place to put equipment
Yeah.
too.
It does have one small garage that we're gonna be able to put, a mini excavator or whatever piece of equipment that makes sense at the time back into that heated area. And then we'll also have the spoil piles to help conceal what we have out there in the beautified area, but yet also keep it from freezing, because that's the part of the luxury of having those huge BMX piles that we've had out there, is you can remove, dig through the frost, throw it aside, and get to the spoils that you can actually work with. And so putting it indoors, to whatever degree, will help keep our material usable, since we won't be able to have such a large pile out there.
So tell me, define spoils. What is that? Is that like a cemetery term or?
So when you excavate for a grave, you've got different types of material out there. Our cemetery has different granular borrow, so the pit run, the rocks, the dirt and such. Some of it's very
Mostly
sandy.
rock.
Half of the cemetery is very rocky and the other half is very sandy. But you gotta have your topsoil, obviously top it off with, and you don't like the big rocks when you start backfilling around the vault. So we try to separate things, and that's what was very luxurious with what we had out there. Was we had so much room. We really did a pretty good job of separating and having the different types of material out there. Where we'll have just 2 bays, we'll have to be a little bit more picky, and we'll probably have a few trips back and forth from the shop area with some of that material. But with the storage building, we will be able to at least be efficient to the degree that makes sense.
Some of that spoil is when we dig it out and the body goes in, we have extra dirt and stuff left that's spoiled that we use for the next one or we use different. So
Well, that's good that you're talking about dirt when you talk about spoils, right?
Yeah.
Some bodies you have more dirt than others. No, I'm kidding. It's always-
Sorry, I started that.
No worries, but I'm looking forward to getting that project going now. So thank you. I did, Ryan and I were on the 300 idea with the plots, but I think it's actually closer to 500. The last phase 1 was 300 roughly. I think this phase will cover about 500, almost 500, I think.
500 graves.
Right. Even though the cemetery parcel as a whole, I believe, is less than 50% full. As far as we have sold spaces, but there's not necessarily people in them. So there's a lot of room.
It's deceptive because there are so many headstones out there, but some are headstones that, like my name's on a headstone, and I'm not in the ground yet. So
there's a lot of years, a lot of decades of openings and closings still to come. That's all I have. Let's have any
questions from anyone?
What's the timeline on the reservoir?
Well, I'm optimistic.
Last October.
Yeah. Well, November it was supposed to have water in it. We're still not quite have that. I think we will by the end of this month if things continue on the path of the schedule. But the control building is just barely started as far as the foundation for it. But they did finish the curbing. So the tank itself, the concrete structure of the tank that holds water, should be completed as of this week. So
That's a big thing.
so now they can clean
structure.
it and fill it with water and start the disinfection process and doing the state approvals.
Robert, and that water coming from
It will be filled from both directions.
both directions. Okay.
In the winter, we primarily filled from Broad Hollow, Providence Canyon, gravity. Because our gravity spring takes care of our entire.
Yeah, well, that was my real question, was the timing of getting it done in winter seems beneficial in that we have more water supply out of Broad Hollow in winter time than in summer, correct?
True, but
Okay.
we do go through a lot of water, culinary water in the summer. So our storage currently was 5.13 million gallons, and we drink or irrigate both over that per day through July. So
Wow.
our storage,
Boy, that's a lot, isn't it?
correct. So
So it's really a moot point at that.
kind of as far as the seasons go in the
Yeah,
town, but
okay, good point.
we definitely need the storage to help us get through those
Yeah,
days.
that's unbelievable. But
We
I
go through a
think
lot of water.
in me, I hear that and I just think, wow, how important it was that we got that water tank. And I mean, that's an important project for the city.
Very true.
Is
A
this
lot
a
of-
million and a half?
This
one-
is 1.5 million, which will add to the 1.13 that we currently have in zone 2, which is the middle zone. So a lot of people look at where that tank's at and they understand, gravity equals pressure of the elevation and wonder how development is going to, utilize that tank next to that tank because it's not all the way up by the deer fence. It's because it's for zone 2, which is the middle elevations of town. Comb Reservoir, the furthest up Providence Canyon tank, which is a 1 million gallon tank, is what feeds the highest zone, which we refer to as zone 3 and 4 on the south edge.
Great. Other questions, comments?
The two tanks in zone 2 are equal elevation, aren't they?
Correct. So they act one and the same as one tank. So we don't have all our eggs in one basket, which is nice, but they definitely have their little challenges of making them function the way we need to, which is why we have someone.
Is the piping completed between the two tanks?
What?
All the piping infrastructure, is that completed between the two tanks in zone 2? Are we all done with the piping?
Yes, but there's always upgrades. The piping from Abbey Lane up to the new reservoir.
Yeah.
That's all but about 50%, 50 feet worth of pipe because the control building's not yet built, but the pipe has been laid and tested for the most part, all the way up to the tank.
Is that a 12 inch?
12-inch pipe, correct. We actually ran 2 12-inch pipes, but only one went from Abbey intersection, Stonehenge. The other one went from the shunt line, what we call the shunt line, which you're probably familiar with, which is about a 400-foot stretch of pipe to connect zone 3 to the control room to fill the tank.
Rob, as a citizen, I appreciate the work that your folks do. As a mayor, would you convey to them my thanks for the great job they do?
I most certainly will. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
For example, we had a neighbor who had a pile of snow, which I know is that you're training your guys too close to their mailbox. And they called the city, and in less than an hour, you had someone up there moving that pile of snow so they could get their mail that day. And that's awesome. Thank you.
PR is important. We do what we can, the best we can when we can.
Thanks, Charles.
Good job.
Thank you. Scarlett? And by the way, I've missed a goal already. I was gonna try to have us out here by 7:30. That did not happen.
I'll talk really,
But that was
quick.
my goal. That would have
That would've
been
been-
awesome.
Blown our minds away. Yeah.
Probably need to convey that and then everybody can help us that's their target.
Okay. I'll make sure that I state that at the beginning.
So, I think that as I was walking out for just a second, Janelle said something about not knowing about events quick enough. We're working on our recreation calendar right now. And so Shayla's finishing up some meetings, some of our activities we coordinate with other cities, our baseball activities, softball, things like that. And they're supposed to be finishing up those things and getting us some deadlines by the end of this month. And then we'll put out some type of a calendar on the website or in the newsletter or something to kind of give people heads up of what's coming. We are also, I don't know how many of you know or have been to the Stokes Nature Center Canyon Jams. They're outdoor music, and instead of holding them in a park, they held them up at Second Dam. Because of some repair work on Second Dam last year, They held those in Von Bear Park. And
I tried to go to the one in the rainstorm.
you did.
That didn't work out very well.
No, probably not. Anyway, they are coming back to Von Bear Park.
Awesome.
So they will be running. I don't know. I didn't talk to Michelle to find out why they're not going to Second Dam, but they felt like they had a really positive experience. And so they're going to be holding canyon jams in Von Bear Park. So there will be music in that park quite frequently. I want to say they've got like 7 or 8. Right now they have a whole bunch of dates set aside, and they just sent me a list today that they are releasing most of the dates they had set aside in June as they're starting to get their calendar filled with their bands. So that'll be fun to watch and have come.
And that would be a great thing for us to put in the newsletter as
Yeah.
well,
We will.
because
And
it's happening in our park, so.
yes. I also wanted to let you know we're still looking for our stormwater technician. The Public Works Department does a great job on the outside stormwater stuff, but there is so much with that that involves a lot of reports and things like that. And that position's still open. We're still looking for someone for that. So
Was the council aware that April resigned? That's the position that we're.
Yeah.
Okay.
I noticed one thing I kind of wanted to, on the land use side of things. Well, actually, before land use, I'll hit historic preservation really quick. Historic preservation would probably be a good resource. If you're thinking about the historic downtown center or something like that, that's right up their alley. Historic preservation is actually a land use function, a historical society, or what was your LLC called?
The Providence Pioneer Heritage Inc.
Yes, they have a little bit different role. The Providence Pioneer Heritage Inc., they're kind of a fundraising mechanism where some of the city type functions we can't do. And then in historical society, they're more about, they're kind of more about the people in the written word, that kind of history. The historic preservation, that's really what they are, is preservation. They're about the preservation of buildings and facilities and things like that. So keep them in mind as we move through some of our historic center plans. We do have someone that is called, and I don't know how far it will go, but they're actually interested in doing something fun with the old Pickett blacksmith shop that's right there at like 10 West Center, I think is the address.
Is it behind the print, where the print shop used to be?
Yep, it's between the print shop and the little garden store, Melinda Petro's, I can't remember which color garden, greenhouse something, but anyway, so we'll see how that goes.
Sorry, when you say they're interested in doing something with, what does
I'm
that
not
mean?
sure how,
Oh, okay.
right now, they just contacted me and I reached out to the state historic preservation to see what kind of funds are available if someone wants to do some restoration work.
So this would be a nonprofit that would purchase
I
that
think
part
it's
of
a
the
private
building.
party that wants to do something with that part of the building, but we'll see how it goes. Unfortunately,
fun.
that building, I don't know why, but when we did the set aside our historic preservation, or excuse me, our historic district, that building didn't qualify as eligible. Maybe it was too deteriorated at the time or something. There's some criteria. So the state's going to look into that for me and see what we can do. And that might be kind of a fun thing. We are busy in land use. And I just kind of want to give everybody a heads up based on Brent's comments and a little bit on Jeff's too. We heard the voters just like everybody else did as staff. However, in the pipeline, there are probably approximately 200 multifamily units that are approved. They're ready to go. They were already in the system, so there was nothing we could do about stopping any of that. So I just want to let people know that the Providence City is not ignoring that vote by any means, but there will be approximately 87 over in Spring Creek. They're calling them Spring Creek Townhomes. That will be between the veterinarian place and the theaters back in that field there.
By that slough that's there.
There will also be a retail office component. The building looks to be, it's not quite 8,000. I can't remember, and I just did the math on it earlier, but it's just a little under 8,000 square feet for the retail component of that. Providence City Center actually has enough interest in their commercial, in their mixed use area right over here behind Macy's, that they came into the planning commission and they reduced the number of residential units. They asked to be able to go under the new plan, the newest ordinance. So they are going to be, they've redesigned their residential component, but they will still have 30 units that will go up there. And that way they could have a little bit more, because there was more interest in their commercial than they thought they were going to have. And so I think one of the things that made me feel good was our ordinance was timely because it worked really well for what they wanted to do. So I kind of felt like that was a positive thing that I wanted to pass on to you. I think that was a good move. And then we have Fox Hollow. Their first phase is about ready to go. They're over on 3rd South, just a little east of where Macy's is. That's where they'll be doing. They are going to honor the terms of the annexation agreement. We've worked that out. We held the pre-construction meeting with them today on that. And so they will be putting in, we will be supplying the pipe and the manhole, and they will be installing it and making sort of a, I don't think it will be, I think they'll just widen the asphalt. The way it's planned, they're just going to widen the asphalt on the road so that there will be a place to walk, though, since there won't be a sidewalk in front of the Barlow property at this point in time, but there will be asphalt. And then we have Providence Gateway North, and they're the ones that I can't remember for sure how many units. I think it's about 40 that will be right here by our other gateways. So those units, those are already done deals that we could not go back on. So if people say something, it was not that the staff didn't hear them. We heard their voices as well. Thanks to the rezones, we have a concept plan in for the Danny McFarland property that you changed from single family large to single family traditional. There's still fairly large lots. I think there's 91 lots. I can't remember for sure.
Under 100. Well, I forget what we tried to hold them to.
I think 100.
Was it under 100?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good.
It's just in concept plan. I mean, they're now going to move to their preliminary plat. But yes, I wanted to let you know that they did take your comments to heart, and we'll see. They've got some challenges with some road grades and things like that, which the last bunches are going to on that east bench. And then I just got a call today. The people that were interested in Highlands, since the rezone went through, they are interested still, and they will be submitting a concept probably within a week. And I have no idea how many homes they have, because the last
Where's
thing,
that?
the southeast bench.
Okay.
Remember the group that came in and
Right.
we told them they had to kind of start over.
Let's face it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they will be shooting us a plan in the next week or so. And then our water master plan is far enough along that, excuse me, Shoreline phase 2 and 3 sent their electronic files, digital files on their water calculations to our engineer that's working on that. So they will be able to plug that in and see what kind of impact those developments up on the east side will start to have. So I'm excited about that as well. And then I think I mentioned last time that the historic preservation is moving along with the park signs, and
There are going to be like 8 park signs.
yes, I think that's what it is. Now, they're not all going in parks. They're historic signs. The couple of, one of highlights, the quarry. There, I can't remember. them all.
There's one there by the old city building.
Yes, the pavilion, the blacksmiths, not a particular blacksmith shop, but the blacksmiths, the irrigation water, there's one on the water. There's one's going in at Cattle Corral Park. There will be several signs and we'll highlight them as they go in and try and do some neat things during the summer to highlight our parks and our recreation plan. And that's one thing that I wanted to just say thank you so much for the funding for those master plans. When Ryan first came on, he said, one of the first things he said to me when I sat down, he says, what can I do to help you? And I said, we need master plans. And I rattled off a list, and thank you to the council that funded that list of master plans because they are lifesavers. I don't know how to tell you from a staff side how important those plans are. And so thank you for supporting that effort. And thank you for supporting the plans as the projects come in, whether it's park development or subdivision development or water development, sewer. And we have interest as well down on the highway on the southwest side of the city. I'm getting phone calls and we have some development interest on the highway. I think you'll start to see some things happening there. So lots going on, but thank you again, council, for your support of those master plans, because without the council being able to have that vision, we would still be struggling. And I really want to say thanks for that.
Hold on a second. Having just come off the planning commission and I had all the help and support from you and your staff. Again, I just want to, from my standpoint as a citizen and as someone who worked with you, thank you. Ron, I'm sure all of you know, knowing the codes and knowing where to go get them. Occasionally she has to look things up, but she has a lot of that stuff in her head. And it was so wonderful really to work with you and your staff to get the information to be able to present and make we feel like the right decisions about some of these land use issues, but thank you.
Comment too. You mentioned the fact that we had so many already. I think that's a job of this council, just to communicate with the citizens that there was so much already on the table.
Right.
And we have not ignored the vote. What we do is have to take the process, implement, and do something about it.
And it's not like the information isn't already available on our website, but most people don't know how to go find that and see it and hear and listen to it in our meetings, but
they don't.
But we do need to get that information out. Yes.
And that's 100% my goal is telling those stories so that people don't misinterpret what's
Right.
happening.
Right, you don't think, well, they ignored us, they ignored the vote. It was the process. We're in due process. It takes time.
From the time that they walk into your office and say, I've got a dream and I want to do this, estimate how long it takes before it's signed, sealed, and delivered so that they can start their project.
Well, there's a lot of different.
There are a lot of variables, I understand
But
that.
honestly, you're talking 6 months to a year, easy on most projects.
Now, if somebody's going to build a house, it doesn't take that long.
No,
But if it's a project,
and unfortunately, sometimes on some of the houses, depending on the sensitive area that they're dealing with, we have to hold them up a little bit. But our goal is that we're not trying to overreach by any means. We're trying to make sure that when people build their house, they don't run into problems that we've seen a couple of times up on that east bench. There's been a couple of things where the ground shifted a little bit, and unfortunately, that's not been a good thing for that homeowner. And so while I think sometimes they feel like we're overreaching, we're just trying really hard to make sure that they're building their home in the safest manner that they can. that it doesn't negatively impact their neighbors or themselves. So, but we've shortened that process as well. That was the code amendment on the sensitive areas that was recently passed, and that was a great thing. And that has relieved the administrative land use. We were meeting sometimes twice a week to try, and we should be meeting every other week, and to try and get through all of the homes so that we weren't holding people up. And now they can come in, we get their engineering reports. This goes through the administrative, just the staff, and it's working really well. So thank you again for that. And I do appreciate, we have been very fortunate. We have good staff that works at Providence City. Ryan's been a good addition to Providence City, and I'm excited for the role that Angie's going to play with the public information officer. I think with someone that has that, and Ryan and Angie working together on that, and working with you to tell our story, I think is going to be a really good thing. So thank you for funding all of that stuff that helps us to do our jobs better, to accomplish your goals.
I think just to kind of back up a little bit on your statement about the codes, you know, some people see those as restrictions, but they actually are there to protect the citizens. Not to restrict them, not to make sure that we have the final word. It's to protect the citizens, because we've seen people that want to do funny, weird things, and it's against our code for a reason.
Yeah.
Because it protects them.
Yeah. Maybe sometime we ought to do, I'm reminded of that little cartoon show that How Does a Law Become a Law, or something like that. You were probably all too young to remember those little ditties, but anyway, sometimes I think it would be kind of fun for people to understand. Many of our codes, and some of our more restrictive ones, actually are in response to community complaints. And we've had to say, okay, we have enough people that feel about this, we need to do something about it. But I think most people agree with Jeff. We don't want to overreach. We just want to do our role and have a good city.
Having been in the building and fire side of it for enforcement of codes, codes come from problems. People establish codes to stop further expansion of problems that we've experienced. And so consequently, most of the codes have come from already problems that have arisen, particularly in the fire industry.
Yeah, so it's a fine line, but there's a lot of work to do on it. And as everything evolves, and Ty's been great to reach out. Ty's been a huge addition as well. He does a wonderful job. So we are really, really fortunate with the staff that we have. You don't see Justin Blaylock, you don't hear his name very much. He does our GIS and our mapping. Go on and look at our maps and have fun on our website for a minute and see his good work. So like I said, thank you for your support of Ryan and his requests and of our staff.
Thank you. Okay. Don't have anybody else? Oh, Ty. Are you sitting over there in your quiet little way?
We talked about our code a lot tonight. We are in the process of reviewing our code. We ran into a couple of snags, but we kind of ironed out, so we should be back on track. We should be seeing some kind of progress in the next couple of weeks.
So is this we put it out, we've got a company that's reviewing our codes for consistency.
Since June. And we expected something back in November, December. They did merge with another company, so we've been told that they're causing problems. We just kind of pushed behind, but we've rectified that, so we're back at the top. So we should see something again in the next couple of weeks, at least by February. We should have our big review with their attorney and our city attorney, and we'll move forward with reviewing our code. So be a lot cleaned up. And you guys want to keep doing more than just these once a month, let me know, and I'll inform you as I'm informed.
That would be great. I would love that.
Yeah, sounds good. As you know, last week we started the objection period for the annexation for Vineyard. the same one that was recently designed in our election. It's a 30-day objection period, so it ends February 16th, so we probably won't see a public hearing until March. I believe they do plan on doing a zone assignment hearing for planning commission before then, making a recommendation. I'll keep you guys in the loop with that as well. So far, no objections. I've gotten a few calls from a couple of citizens who are confused about it, thinking that it was part of their land that was being annexed, and explained that this was something that Vineyard owned, that they were annexing into Providence City. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes with the recent election. And yeah, since it's the start of a new year, you council members, I do want to remind you of the Open Public Meetings Act, OPMA. A good resource, if you guys just go to Google, type in Utah OPMA, the first 5 or 6 .gov sites are very informative. OPMA's stated goal is to ensure that the state, its agencies, and its political subdivisions deliberate and take action openly. Public body may discuss an item raised by the public that is not listed on the agenda, but may not take final action on the item at the meeting. These are just a couple of pointers to point out that most of you probably already know. The decision to close a meeting to the public is always discretionary, not mandatory. The law does not require any meeting to be closed. You guys are familiar with closed meetings. An ordinance, resolution, rule, regulation, contract, or appointment may not be approved during a closed portion of the meeting. There are penalties to a closed meeting. If you violate a closed meeting, it's actually a Class B misdemeanor, which I didn't know about.
For whom?
For
All
the
of us?
city, yeah.
Oh, can the city be,
For the city, so
okay, they can receive a
it can be
misdemeanor.
resolved, of course, with courts mediation. I've never seen it, but yeah, it was something that stood out to me.
And
as
we'd
you
like
also-
to never see it.
Yeah, hopefully. Like I said, if you guys have time this month or the next couple of months, go to those websites. There's good PDFs, there's good printouts, there's good PowerPoints. Very basic, but very informative. It's a very important part of our job, and we make sure what we're talking about is talked openly, and that the public can view and understand. Part of that is that the annual training is required. There's no specific due date. I will try to send you guys the link this week or next week. Takes 10-15 minutes. Again, you're probably mostly familiar with it. There's a certificate at the end that will give you. If you guys could email me that, that'd be great, so I can record that. I'll include that in the email that I send out, but just be prepared for that. Just so we're all prepared this coming year as we move forward, making sure we're in compliance with it. Any questions?
Thank you. Ryan?
When you work with great people, it's easy to come to work every day. And I have a wonderful staff to work with and a wonderful council, and I appreciate that. It's been quite a interesting past 2 years to be working for Providence. I like it. It's been here. Hopefully you guys are willing to keep me on. I'll kind of review a few things. We've reviewed some. When you have a staff that's taking care of a lot of stuff, you can see what's getting done in the city. And I think that sometimes you don't see the hard work that goes in, but all of what happens by Ty and his and taking care of everything. Lots of times with the city, whether it's Ty or Rob or Angie or Scarlett and their staff, a lot of times when things go really well, you don't see it from a public standpoint, and they are doing an amazing job, and you should be happy with the staff we have here. On that note, they are very appreciative of your support with the last raise in the market adjustment that was approved, and those budget approvals. That was a great thing, and we appreciate that, and it goes a long way and doesn't get unnoticed. Obviously, we appreciate the support the council gives us. I would just go through a few of the reports. We've talked about the water master plan. I expect that probably the first draft will come back to the council or the planning commission in February. So we're getting really close. We're excited it's coming. It has taken a little longer. There has been some things that kind of were unexpected. We've talked about some of that with the meters in. We're still working to get it to read. So there are a few things that we're working on. The fiber construction is well underway. We've got a lot of main line in, and they are working on lots of pieces to it. It's a major beast to eat. That major elephant to eat one bite at a time, and we have people biting off all kinds of different spots, if that's a fair analogy. And some are more comfortable than others to be in, actually. One thing we are behind on, and we'll let you know, is that we are behind on number of connections being turned up. We expected more of them to be connected earlier, and so we are behind in that. We're ahead on the main line, and ahead in some of the things. We do have some issues with redundancy in that's Strata's responsibility, but affects us. The network is operating as we have assurance that, but there is some glitches to try to make sure this thing works well. And so anyway, I'll let you know that we do have some hiccups, and some of these things we're eating on different legs than we thought we would. So
How are we doing on budget? Are we staying on budget? Are they staying on budget?
yeah. So the nice thing with ours, with the way your contract is that we're budgeted based on connection. So our contract is for the hut, which we paid exactly what we bid, because we're locked into that amount. We paid for the one fiber distribution point at Jay's well, and so we paid for that. But if they don't connect the dot to get it to the home, to get it to that last resident, we don't pay until they do. So they take all that risk of the costs of going up, and that risk is really all on them. As their delay, we're locked into a firm price in connection. Now, where that doesn't help us is if we have an individual that has a private lane back to them. We pay the same amount for that construction as we do for the townhouses that are right next to each other. So we want all of those residences that are down a long lane. From a city side, we want all of them to connect, because it lowers our overall price. It keeps our price the same, but we get more for it. That's where Strata will win if somebody down a lane doesn't. So anyway, but they have been really good. They've been committed to the price. They've kept it. They're working on that, and so yeah. But the rest of the money that we have from our bond is sitting in an interest-bearing account, waiting to pay for construction as it completes. So, yep. Any other questions about fiber?
If they don't perform and deliver, I'm assuming we have a date that they have to deliver by. Are there penalties?
Yes, absolutely.
I was just gonna say, I took you up on that offer to see the fiber hut, and I thought it was kind of cool, like to see the brain of Providence there and how that works. So if you get the opportunity, it's worth doing.
Yeah, if you haven't,
grab Ryan a cup of hot chocolate and take him over there.
Yeah, I want to go see the brain sometime.
yes, yeah. Well, let me know. And I have a key. We can get in. Just let me know when it's convenient for you, and I'll be happy to show you. And I think Janelle, you've seen it as well, right? It's a big deal. Lots is happening there. I think we have 2 ISPs that are connecting through and testing, and so we have a lot going on in a lot of different places. This elephant will get eaten. There's lots of bites all over it. So anyway, we had an interesting thing, and I just kind of share it with you. I don't know whether any of you have heard on YouTube or things like that of a First Amendment audit. Anybody heard of that before? Anyway, somebody comes in, stranger comes in and films and pushes to walk anywhere in the building, and because we as staff, we operate inside our office. I probably spend as much time in my office as I do anywhere in my house, and so sometimes it can feel like they come into your personal space. I mean, we realize it's a government building and it's the city's building, but sometimes, I mean, that's kind of the one of the attempts is to try to see if they'll be restricted and some of that. And so we've had twice that somebody's come through the building, and I think Mayor, you were here on one of those. Another one happened today, and they want to get a rise. They really want to get a rise out of the staff or out of that. And they posted lots of them. If you search for it online, First Amendment audit, there's all kinds of them over all kinds of different cities. But we do respect that, when somebody comes in, we want to respect the public. We want them to be able to come in, and we're open for business. And there are some areas that are more sensitive, when we're doing payroll or things that might have sensitive information on it, social security numbers and things like that. Share those kind of things out. But anyway, so I just wanted to let you know, if you weren't aware, we've had twice that somebody's come in. It's happening in other cities throughout the county, and so anyway.
Are they respectful, or are they agitators? I mean, I've seen videos like this where they get pulled over and they really try to throw their weight around, and it's just obnoxious, to tell you the truth.
I think it's an agitator. I mean, that's kind of.
And they've done that when they've been in. They've kind of agitated.
I wasn't here either time. Both times they came while I went to lunch, so they must know what I drive or something. I don't know. But
Well, I'll tell you, I was here, and the guy came in, and he was holding up his phone. He was filming and walking around. I asked him if I could help him, and he said, no. I said, what are you doing? This is a public space. I can be here. I asked him his name. He refused to give me his name. I'll tell you, it was pretty threatening for someone to just walk around with a flat effect on their face, filming. He had his hand in his pocket, and he's filming. So I filmed him.
Well, good for you.
Because I didn't know.
But did they walk into the back office?
Yeah, I didn't know what he was gonna do.
I didn't know what he was going to do. I didn't know if he had a weapon on him.
Can
So
we
it was
require someone to
personally
check
threatening
in
for
or
me.
sign into a building? It seems like that would be
as long as we
reasonable.
do it for all, we can't come and say,
Only you can't come in.
you look suspicious, we need you to check in. We would have to have a policy that every single person, that's what they do. We don't currently have that. This is the first time I think we've seen that kind of a thing here.
Was it the same guy today?
That's what I was wondering. Is the
I
same
believe
person
it-
both
I
times?
believe it was, right?
Was it?
Do we need a certain security protocol for our building then? I mean, I'm not saying we lock them out, but a protocol for security. You don't walk in the White House and start filming.
I have lots of pictures in the White House.
Well, that's good.
But you were no
invited.
I
entity.
wasn't invited guest. I
You were
was.
invited.
But with his hand in his pocket, I would feel threatened too.
Yeah, I had no idea what he
don't
wanted,
know
and the
what they're
fact
there
that he
for.
wouldn't
That's-
identify himself was a
that's
problem.
Anyway, just letting you know that happens. Obviously, I think what they'd like to do is they'd like to make us look like fools and prove something wrong. We want the public to be able to come. We want to serve the public. That's our goal. We're here to do that. And so anyway, I just let you know more than anything, just wanted to let you know that it's happened. And if
He challenged me to recite the First Amendment.
So Ryan,
Go ahead.
had you been here,
I don't know what.
had you been here, like, what's your approach or plan if that happens? Like, or what, how are you counseling the staff?
counsel the staff to be calm, not to engage in a fight or that we don't need to fight the person. That's what they're anybody in that kind of a position, whether it be a bully or an agitator or whoever it might be, they're looking for that reaction, right? That's what they're trying to get, because you get no likes on Facebook or on YouTube for
Nothing.
nothing. You know, you don't
It was
get any
just
progress.
personally.
Should I not ask?
Just so that you know,
Just
I mean,
trying to understand.
more than
It was
anything.
just personally
anything.
threatening.
So I just wanted to let you know, I think that, at some point you're gonna get some video that's posted out there, and the attempt will be to try to make Providence look bad and stuff like that.
And see, my interchange with
count
him
and the mayor
might be
look
on the web someplace. I don't know.
So
Maybe
anyway,
I'll
I think they'll
Edit
try.
it to make it
Right.
Absolutely.
So anyway, just so you know, I just wanted to let you know so that it'd probably be okay. You should know. Anyway, the cemetery expansion we talked about and working on one more side. So I have a gift. It's a gift in my world because I love numbers.
budget. It's the budget.
I like how you put that. A
Gifts
gift.
come in wrapped in paper. Bags.
It's stapled.
Or their gifts are a little bulkier than this usually.
Yeah.
All right, I won't make you read it.
We'll take it.
But each quarter, my goal is to try to get you this each quarter so you can kind of digest and see that we're on track. I know that Rob reports we're on track, and trying to instill that so that you help. You can see that we're on track with our budgets and we're watching. And
So the percent that we should be at in everything, if we were on track.
well, we're halfway through the year. Right, so you can see just on that first page, our total revenue was at 64.7, and our expenses are 49.68. So
We
in
like
the other
that.
one, we're not looking as a revenue source necessarily for transient room. That's not the avenue. You'll hear that we didn't say we're looking to
How
make
can we
more
get
money.
more money?
That wasn't where we were at and what we presented. We presented an avenue of enforcement and compliance so that we can help take care of the city as you want it, as you've designed. So anyway, I thought I'd give that to you. It's each of the different funds. Fund 10 and Fund 45. Fund 10 and Fund 45 are our general funds. The rest are our enterprise funds. And so anyway, another answer I just wanted to make of why we have the loans we have. If you recall, the water bond was at a low interest rate, and it's expected over the life of the life of the loan will have made more in keeping our money in the bank, and that arbitrage of interest will have made that back. But the real benefit to having it, because we had the money in the bank to pay that, we didn't have to take out a loan. But one of the biggest benefits is the impact fee and tracking of the impact fee and being able to apply that impact fee back to a bond payment so that you have a good record, and it's more about tracking and monitoring our impact fees and doing that because the interest is negligible at that point. The fiber one, we have money, but we wanted the fiber loan and the fiber project to be its enterprise fund and to be able to be self-sufficient. And ultimately, that's the goal. And so doing that, it didn't start with cash, started with a loan. And as we have revenue, we pay back that loan. And it's a little over 2%. So we expect that that it's somewhat negligible. Obviously, that it won't over time, but in the long term, it allowed it so that it's self-sufficient, contained accounting, and that's one of the reasons for those two loans. But you're right; those are the only two loans we have. Both of them, we've used some in construction, but haven't completed the construction of that. So there may be.
I'm
stuff
sorry,
we don't
what page are the loans?
They're not.
Oh,
Ryan, and just respond to this. Sorry.
thank you.
Can you remind me what our bond rating is even after those? We had a bond rating after those loans, correct? But we still have a bond rating that's.
Yeah, we have a great bond rating. Great bond rating for us. It's an A minus. It's a credit score, and so yes, we didn't need one for the water because we took that through a state agency, and we have one sold, and so that's the credit rating we have is an A minus. The state is one of the few states that have a AAA. Most cities don't have anything higher than an A minus, so an A is probably maybe the best, but because the rating is lower because we don't have a history more than anything else. So that's like if you have a child that has never had any credit history, they may be great at money, but because they don't have a history, they don't have much better credit. So we have as good a credit score that way as we could with the experience. So, but we have funds in the account that honestly, and it's the cash account's not in here, but as a city, we have enough money in our accounts to pay off all of our debts if that was the way. But it would rob Peter to pay Paul, and some of those, and it's not kosher, but there's not a risk for us as far as an entity, and so we've done it for longer, bigger term purposes than just no debt. There's other reasons for what we've done. So anyway, just a refresher. So anyway, that is my report, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Great report. Thank you. And I just can add my thanks to you as well for the great way that you've run the city, and just how we're up to date on the things that we're doing, and look forward as a mayor to all the great things that we'll accomplish. Thank you. Okay. Thanks for the gift.
You're welcome.
Little light reading, snooze materials, but thank you. We're so glad. Yeah, Janelle will like it.
He hit a typo in there for you too.
That you can find if you look
It's like
really hard.
it's like a word search
It's
for
like
you.
find Waldo.
Just so you know, Josh, I just typed up something that I think is a typo that I was gonna ask Ryan about, so.
I swear, I read the minutes this time thinking, I'm gonna find the typo, not Janelle.
We are so glad
You're
that
so
you're good at that.
So good.
Really.
So good, you're
Your
so
own
good.
talents, that's one of yours.
Yes, yes. Not very exciting.
That does such a good job.
Great. Okay. Thank you. That's all the reports that we have. Other than mine, I have a report as well. And then council has reports. Or you feel like you gave me your report.
I could give you my.
Good.
I
I'm
think
good.
I'm done.
I did not. What did you tell me now?
Okay,
true.
Janelle. Yeah, and then I'll do mine.
I could actually give one too.
Okay. Josh, you think, can you come up with
I'm
one?
gonna pass.
Okay.
So I spoke to Janine Allen at the county. We currently are in limbo with the library board while they look for replacement for Bryce Mumford. They're kind of in the middle of that transition. And so we'll resume board meetings. I'm currently the chair of the board. So let's see how that goes. Yeah,
Chair of the library board.
chair of the library board.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
The Blacksmith Fork irrigation, we had our annual meeting on Monday. It was well attended. We have been trying to update digital communication there, and I talked to Brian Olson. He said that's the best attendance they've had in a dozen years. A lot. So that's going well. Got a lot of citizen involvement there. And today I spent the day down at the Capitol with our youth council, and they had a good time there. They met Representative Snyder and Senator Wilson. They got to sit in and watch the Tax and Revenue Committee, which they found fascinating. We had a good discussion about that on the way home. And I have had some residents come talk to me about debris removal and nuisances, some more different residents than we've heard from in the past. Their concern is that they feel like the city doesn't care if people clean up their garbage. So maybe we should put some attention on that nuisance. So I don't know if we should have like a subcommittee maybe work on the nuisance ordinance to kind of make some headway on it before we spend a ton of time as a council or something, maybe aim. I know February, it sounds like we got a lot in February, maybe aim something towards March to look at nuisances, but yeah, that's my report.
But nothing that I would report is urgent. No, I won't report. I talked enough.
Okay,
It's not urgent.
is Josh poking you?
No,
You said
no,
you would do that. Okay, let me just quickly do mine. I told you earlier that Ryan and I met with Chris Wilson and Casey Snyder and offered our support for their legislative agendas. And they offered their support to us to look out for city things that might be a concern for us at the city, as well as we have the Utah League of Cities and Towns who are looking out for what might be impactful to the cities. Casey Snyder came and had a town hall here in the, what was it, last week, Ryan? I think it was last week. And we had a good conversation with him, and we had 4 or 5 people that attended. But Casey knows that we're on his side and that we want to be helpful, and he wants to be helpful to us. I had an opportunity to have lunch with Blake Moore, who is our congressman that represents us. He's looking out for issues that may impact the local governments, and he and I have had several conversations since then. I have a personal connection with he and his family, so he's is interested in looking out for us. I was able to deliver a check to the family place. It was the money earned during the Santa and tree lighting celebration. We delivered $1,129 to the family place, and they were very appreciative of that. That they always make our donations go a long ways, and because it was delivered before the end of the year, they were able to get a match for it. So that was really great. We appreciate Carrie and her efforts, and it was a great thing that we did. And this was the most money. This is like double what we've made before, isn't it?
So, and no, I mean, it was really Shaler. So,
Yeah, and
the youth council does.
Yep.
Yeah.
I attended the Regional Wastewater Treatment Rate Committee. Interesting to hear what they're doing and what they're proposing, what they're planning. And so then I attended the Mayor's Association dinner with, again, the legislators that represent us in this part of the valley. And then today I was with Janelle at the Young City Council day at the legislature. And it was pretty fun to watch them. They were excited about the things that they saw and heard. So that is my report for now. And I'm happy to discuss that any further if anybody wants information. But since I'm an hour and a half past my goal, anything further? Oh, Brent, we need your report. Okay. Jeff, have you spoken with anyone that you can report?
I have not.
Okay. Sounds good. So with that, we're at the end of our agenda. And I will entertain.
The next one will be the executive session that we're going to go to.
Yes.
Okay. Just curious.
It sounded like she's ending to me too.
That's-
I was gonna make a motion and forget the executive.
Don't we have to
session.
close out of this
No.
meeting?
No.
Oh.
You can't close this
Okay,
meeting.
my mistake.
So
Okay, so we need to go into a closed executive session to discuss Ryan's performance. And so, and do we need a motion to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
yes.
Whoa.
Sorry. I'll make a motion that we go into executive session.
Okay. We need a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Ryan, or excuse me, by Josh and a second by Carrie. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,